All right, welcome back everybody, back with another quick little news of the day video here for you guys, keeping you guys up to date with everything that's been going on in the Dota 2 Pro circuit, especially as of late for the post-TI 11 roster shuffling news, which actually over the past couple weeks has been pretty quiet, but has started to pick up momentum again, and I'd imagine things are going to start picking up even more momentum as we now have an official date for when rosters will have to be finalized heading into next season. But before we get into that and everything else in this video, as per usual, if you've noticed that I've missed anything on this board or in prior boards in previous videos, be sure to let me know in the comments down below. Try to make sure that it is something that has been actually confirmed at this point by any of the people that are involved in that news. And if you want to check out any of the things that I talk about in this video for yourself, be sure to check out the description. All of them are linked down below, as well as the link to our Discord server if you want to join that. And of course, if you don't want to miss any more news of the day updates, be sure to subscribe, hit the bell, and if you enjoy the video, like and share it. It goes a long way. Okay, yes, so roster shuffling will come to an end officially on December 9th at 11:59 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, which is just about 3 weeks from now, which means that all of this hectic stuff going on right now, all of these players that are available right now, which I've been talking about quite a bit over the past few weeks, how a lot of players are leaving teams and teams are disbanding. All of these players are available, and yet very few teams have actually made additions to their roster at this point. So there is a lot of changes that could be coming, not to mention rosters that haven't done anything yet that are heavily rumored to be making some big changes. That is all going to be happening in the next 3 weeks, which is very exciting. And all of this is coming from a silent change to the official Dota 2 Pro Circuit website, which I say silent because it wasn't actually announced by Valve. It was just a modification to the website, which means that there could be more changes coming. There were some changes to the actual rule book heading into next season, which is pretty exciting. But given that it wasn't formally announced, it means that there could be some more on the way, which I think overall is a good thing. And we'll get into that a little bit more when we get into some of the other stories in this video. But I do think that there is still some room to improve the overall health of the DPC. But as pertaining to those rule changes, which we'll dive into a little bit here, they're pretty minor changes here and there, mainly revolving around roster changes throughout the season and having stand-ins for given tournaments, which previously in the last season, if you did have a stand-in, say you needed a stand-in to play for you at the major, immediately you would have a 40% deduction on any points that were earned at that given tournament. Meaning, if you had won 0 points, no problem. You didn't have any points deducted from you because you didn't win anything. But if you won, say, 300 points at that major, you would have 40% deducted, meaning you would only get 180 of those original 300 points. That is now going to be changed in a very slight way. Teams will now actually have a cap on how many stand-ins they are able to have at one time. If they have more than 2 or require more than 2 for any given match, it is considered an automatic forfeit. Each stand-in now actually also represents an individual 40% deduction on those points as well. So rather than having 2 stand-ins, 3 stand-ins, and only having 40% deducted, you now have 40% deducted for one stand-in and an additional, I believe, 64% in total for having 2 stand-ins. So those original 300 points that you would have won with a full roster, if you have 2 stand-ins, that is now only going to be 108 points, which is a huge deduction. Again, Valve incentivizing trying to keep rosters together, and that also is signified in another change when it comes to roster changes throughout the year. Previously, if you had any player leaving your roster throughout the year, you would have 15 points deducted from your already existing point total for that season. That has now been bumped up to 20. So Valve making it clear that they would like to at least have some sort of stability. They want teams to try to hold their rosters together throughout a year, maybe not have as much volatility after each individual major cycle, which I think overall is a pretty good thing. When it comes to the overall health of a competitive scene for any given competitive scene, having some sort of stability in rosters and orgs is always going to be something that's good. As nice as having hectic periods like this or hectic periods like after a major where players and teams are going all over the place, having stability can be a pretty important thing, especially when it comes to the fact that for a lot of these players, this is their livelihood. For a lot of these organizations, the money that comes from this, these tours, these seasons is very important to have. And so stability, pretty great overall. And I think that the way that they're enforcing that a little bit has been pretty nice. However, again, hopefully there are some more changes to come. I am still hoping for some more things to change, and we'll talk about that a little bit more as we get further into this video. But for now, that's about it for the rule changes heading into next year. I'll let you guys know if anything else changes. Okay, moving over to Evil Geniuses now really quickly. Of course, a few days ago we had the news that Evil Geniuses was dropping their roster and moving to South America. We don't know who they're going to be picking up yet in South America. It has been heavily rumored that they're going to be picking up the remaining members from Thunder Awaken and Beast Coast, who have yet to be picked up at this point, but no confirmation yet. But as for the players, we didn't exactly know what was going to be happening. Again, you have a lot of players that have all played in numerous regions, many of these players having long careers. Would some retire? Would some move regions? Would some continue to play in North America? A lot of questions to be answered, and we actually had Fly coming on and confirming that many of the members from that EG roster will continue to play together and in North America. Who those members are or how many of them there are, is it 3, 4, the whole roster? We don't know. That's kind of it for now. But that mention that they will be sticking in North America is a pretty crucial one, because now there is a huge hole in North America that needs to be filled. There is a huge market that can be tapped by some big organization coming in and picking up a roster like this. You have to imagine that there's at least a few organizations that are stumbling over themselves trying to get these guys signed, because again, having Fly, Arteezy, Abed, Crit, Nightfall, and Bulba all signed on a new roster for North America, being that new franchise that gets to be the face of North America, is going to be huge. And I can't imagine that there aren't at least a few organizations stumbling over themselves to sign these guys. So going to be pretty exciting to see how this ends up shaking up. Again, we will find out within the next 3 weeks, which is very exciting. And speaking of South America, we actually have SG Esports, which is going to be ceasing their operations within the esports scene, which is pretty crazy to think about, because a year ago, well, just a little over a year ago, they were at TI10. They didn't make it very far at TI10, but they were a TI team from South America. There was a lot to be proud of for this org, and this past year has been more or less of a disaster, and now they're ceasing operations entirely. So, yeah, kind of crazy news here. They didn't, again, have a very good year this past year. It is unfortunate to hear. Best of luck to all the players and everyone involved. Hopefully everyone's able to be okay with this, and we'll see who ends up taking that slot now in South America. Moving now over to Southeast Asia briefly, we have some news from T1, and that is that they have released their roster. Well, at least what was left of it. They had pretty much purged everyone from their roster other than Ana and Thompson. There was some speculation that maybe T1 was going to rebuild around Ana and Thompson, because of course those are some pretty big, huge players, 2-time TI champions. But no, they have released them as well. And there have been quite a few rumors, and I will preface this, they are just rumors, that T1 might not be sticking around for the next season. They might be getting rid of their DPC slot, which if they did, it'd be a real shame. And this kind of leads into that a little bit, but again, that's all speculation. T1, I'm assured that if they wanted to, they could throw together a roster. And when we talk about the last story on the board here, I do want to address a few things about the DPC that I do think should get changed, along with some of the other things that I talked about in this video. But before we get to that, little brief update coming from Gaimin Gladiators. They have parted ways with coach ImmortalFaith. I was a little surprised to hear this. I think that they had a pretty fantastic year. Winning that first regional finals was pretty huge. They had some pretty good runs at the majors this year. Kind of disappointing, I guess, with their TI run not going maybe as far as they were hoping to, but overall, fantastic year. But evidently, things did not end up unfolding that way. They cannot dodge roster shuffling. Their coach will be parting ways. And ImmortalFaith, after putting up a year like this, again, got to imagine that there's a pretty big market to grab him for their team. So we'll see where he ends up. And finally, ending off today's video, we have news that RSG, an upper division team in Southeast Asia, has actually sold their DPC slot to a new org that's going to be coming into the Dota 2 Pro circuit, and that is Tier 1 Entertainment. So if T1 does not leave the pro scene, the Dota 2 Pro circuit, then we have Tier 1 Entertainment and T1 both in the upper division of Southeast Asia. That's not going to be confusing at all, but it does kind of lead me to want to talk about something that I think is a bit of an issue right now in the Dota 2 Pro scene, and that is that a team that has an upper division slot in the Dota 2 Pro circuit, which is a circuit that is supported directly by Valve, does not see fit to continue running an esports team. They do not see it profitable anymore to run an esports team. They instead want to just sell it off. And I think that that is a pretty big issue because, again, as I was talking about in this video, these players, these orgs rely on the money of this scene to get by. This is their livelihood. And there just really isn't enough money in the scene right now. I mean, if you finish first place in your division, you win $30,000, which over a 6-week period, which is what previous tours was, that's all right pay, but then you split it among 5 members. If you have a coach, then that's 6. If you have an org, you split it even more. That's really not a whole lot of money to be spending away, and that's finishing first place in your region. That is not if you finish last. If you finish last place in the upper division, you just get just above $20,000 for your time, which again is shockingly low for a pro scene that builds and generates so much money from its fans. And yet there is very little monetary support for these teams that are playing at the highest level. Again, these aren't just pub players. These are players that do this for a living. These are players that do this at the highest level, and they're not getting paid for it in any way. So that is something that I've been talking about since the start of this new format for the DPC and the seasons. We haven't seen any changes to it, and it's something that I really hope does end up changing. Again, and I've talked about this before, the amount of money in a major cycle now is less than what it was 5 years ago in the previous versions of the major cycles. Majors used to have a $3 million prize pool. Major cycles now, with every region added up, including the actual major, is 2.2 or 2.3 million. It's less, even though the viewership and the monetary the money that the scene generates in general is higher than it's ever been. So again, I just kind of find it disappointing that a team would rather see it fit to just sell their slot to another team rather than maintain it, whereas a slot should be something that is sacred. You should hold on to it as much as you can because they're hard to come by, and yet that has just not been the case. And I just kind of find it disappointing, especially since, you know, this is an organization that didn't necessarily earn their way to the DPC. They just kind of bought in. So anyways, just something I thought I'd throw in there and thought that we could talk about. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Maybe I'm just crazy. If you guys don't agree with me, let me know for sure. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. Do you think there are going to be any more rule changes? Do you think that there should be any more rule changes into the next season? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. As per usual, your guys' support has been amazing over the past month or so. Seriously, you guys are the best, and I really do appreciate all the comments, all the likes, and all that kind of stuff. You guys have been amazing. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, like, share, subscribe, hit the bell so you don't miss any more videos just like this one. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.